I really want to talk about these three pieces in particular because I know I know in your statement you had seen the sculpture of the wrestler, and kind of how to, and I like how you interpret it for what is sort of going on during our times right now, which I think is important for an artist to depict because, I mean, it's our reality, it's what's going on. So you can tell us a little bit more about that.
So the Uffizi, I've never been to the Uffizi museum, and I was looking online, there's like tons of great stuff online, and I use that a lot in terms of references and just coming up with imagery, and especially nowadays, so many museums are opening up their collections.
Yes.
So you can look at stuff online and get really, high resolution imagery, but I'd never really looked at the sculptures in the Uffizi before, and I was just flipping, screens, going through, looking, and I saw the wrestlers, which is like this old marble sculpture that doesn't look very big, it's not like life size or anything, but anyway, and it's marble, so it's all white, and I looked at it and thought, that's kind of interesting, just in terms of like drawing figures, because these guys were like wrestling. So I thought, anatomically it's interesting. And then later on, I tried to do sketches of it, and I realized that it's like, if I started doing like finished pieces, I could switch the figures, So sometimes it'd be black, who appears to be winning, sometimes it'd be white, appeared to be winning. And it could be like a whole series done like that, and just drawn from different angles, different views, So that's where that came from. But looking at like that old artist-historical reference was like, it just triggered something in me.
Of course.
And for like a couple hours after that, I was like, okay, what wrestlers from Africa? So there's this whole tradition of wrestling. I guess it's part of like showing your manhood.
Yes.
But nowadays, it's like you look at things like, well, the perfect example is like the whole election.
Yes.
So you have these two parties, and the last few days it's been like, well, this guy's on top. No, this guy's on top. No. So.
And I really love the center piece. And so you incorporated drawing and painting in this one?
Yeah, and silkscreen.
And silkscreen, okay.
So the background is silkscreen, like this stuff. And then the figures, the black is charcoal, and then the brown and the white are paint.
Okay.
So, and I think the orange warm color is paint also. So it started out just as a painting.
Then it just kind of found a life of its own, for sure. So then I guess we'll go down to these two here. And guys, I apologize of the with the lights. So I'm trying my best to kind of show y'all. But I know you incorporate also a lot of African imagery as well in your work. Can you tell us a little about, I'm sure that's when you've traveled over to Africa, and I guess we can tell us a little bit about, I guess, did it come from different tribes, or, if you can explain a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, well, with this piece, there's, on the right side is an Nkisi figure, Nkisi power figure, which, it's an Nkisi power figure, so it kind of symbolizes a protective spirit, you could say, and The figure in the middle is it's actually like a drawing of my father when he was young. So I found this old picture of him, and the figure itself is like from a found photograph, the pose.
Okay.
So I thought, well, I never really did a drawing of my dad, like a portrait thing, So I just did that as best I could. So it kind of looks like him. This is like when he was maybe mid-20s or something, so a very long time ago. So, and then on the right, there's, which is hard to see, it's from a Rubens painting, an Ascension, kind of, but it just is kind of faded out.
Yeah. Okay, guys, sorry. I'm trying to show you, and I think I got it. Oh, wow. Okay.
So when I'm doing these things, it's just trial and error. So I will have an idea about how I want it to look, but it never comes out the way I want it to look. So I just try a bunch of different things.
Sure.
And just keep going. So the Uffizi figure I had, it's like part of my collection in my home. And then this piece here is, I also have these statues. They're only about this big. Well, the tallest one is about that big. But they're called Ujamaa figures from Tanzania, or statues, I guess. And they're these figures that are climbing on top of one another, like supporting one another.
Okay.
So I wanted to do a piece that was kind of updating that whole theme of like how you need people, in your life to support you and all. So the central figure, the young lady, is just taken from like an online modeling site. You buy the pose or whatever. Which is a great way to practice drawing, actually, especially nowadays. Instead of like having someone pose for you, in person.
Sure.
This was kind of difficult, actually, because I knew I wanted to use these statuettes, and they kept being like the center, and I didn't want them to be the center. I wanted them to be like the support, of the figure. So I did this like, I don't know, 7 or 8 times. Kind of like paint it out and do it again, paint it out, do it again.
And what I also have seen in several of your works is that you incorporate a lot of the, I guess, Roman architecture, Greek architecture.
Yeah, Roman Greek architecture.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think of that as like the basis of like art education in a way, because when you're in school, you get fed this whole history of art. So there's like a lot of just memorization, but it's like the foundation for so much of what we understand art to be. So a lot of times I'll add these columns, again, kind of like metaphors for just support and infrastructure.
Okay, which
columns and capital. These are capital.
Which you brought up the topic of art history, which will lead us to this piece, because this is reminiscent of that one painting. Yes. So if you can tell us a little bit about this piece.
So this is taken from one of those reference photos of mine, again, in Africa. So this was like 3 or 4 years ago, I guess. It was recent. But anyway, we went to Zanzibar. We take the students for like a weekend to Zanzibar, which is an island off the coast of Tanzania. And one of the things we do is we watch the sunset from one of those like hotel restaurant on the balcony. It's like a great view of the Indian Ocean, and you can sit there and watch the sunset and watch the boats go out and come in from fishing. But just below, it's only like 2 stories, but just below on the ground is like a beach, and there are people walking on the beach and talking, families, you know, walking along, kids playing like soccer, football. So it's just a really pleasant experience. You know, it's like one of those things they talk about in the travel books.
Okay.
It's like, if you go here, you've got to sit in this restaurant, you've got to like have a drink and look out over the ocean, watch the sunset.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was sitting there and I'm having my soda, looking out, and I saw these 3 guys just talking, like on the beach. And they were posed like this, literally.
Oh, wow.
Actually reversed, because this is etching. But that instantly reminded me of the Manet painting, Luncheon on the Grass.
Yes.
It's like, you know, it's like perfect. Artistry right there, you know, in East Africa. So I took the picture, and like the reason I took the picture was because I thought this was like Manet, you know, updated. You know, so
And so
then
you
I started doing the drawings.
And then you said this is an etching.
Yes. So it's a print etching process. Is basically you engrave into the plate your marks, design, whatever, and all of those marks are then filled with ink, and you run it through a press, and the ink transfers to the paper. So I wanted to do a litho of it, actually, a lithograph, but I could never print the lithograph. So it looks nice.
Yeah.
Lithography is pretty challenging for me to print. You know, I've never been a good printer at lithography. But etching, it's like you just ink it up, wipe it down, and then run it through the press. So it's fairly straightforward.
Okay. All right, well, anybody out there, if y'all have any questions, if you could just kind of type them into the comment section. If there are any questions, I'll be able to read them on our end. I just want to thank y'all for joining us today. I know today is a pretty interesting day because we found out some news earlier, but thank y'all for joining us. I will be emailing the video out and posting it. So if you didn't get a chance to see it, or if you have friends that didn't get a chance to see it, they'll be more than welcome to go to our Facebook page. Or if they don't have our email list, they can sign up on our website. But thank y'all again for joining us today. And we're open Saturdays to the public from 11 to 5. And Tuesday through Friday by appointment only. And you can call the gallery and you can ask to set up an appointment to see Leamon Green's exhibition, Sources 2020. And like I said, I believe it's actually up until the Saturday before Thanksgiving. So it's November 21st, I believe. So thank y'all, and I hope y'all have a great day. Leamon's gonna say goodbye now. And thank you. Oh, okay. We have a question. Okay, so question is, why is art history still so important to a working artist today?
For me, I think it's like the old saying, if you don't know your past, you can't know your future. You don't know how to go into the future. You know, so I think of art history as like all of these different references that I can use to educate myself, but it also points the way forward, you know, for me in terms of I don't want to repeat what was done, but it gives me ideas about how I can proceed with my own work.
Okay.
So.
All right, and we have another question for you. What started you on your path of intermixing African and classical Western imagery?
It's just, I think of it more as who I am. So, you know, I've always been interested in just art history as a means of like being an artist, I guess. You know, basically because it was the way I was trained. But when I was in school, there wasn't much in terms of like art from other cultures. But I actually went to school in Cleveland for undergraduate, the Art Institute, which is across the street from the museum. At least it used to be. And I had a part-time job as working at the museum. So standing around at the museum, they had a small African art section, but they had a tremendous Asian art section. You know, and just being in those galleries and looking at like the beauty of Chinese painting, the calligraphy that was involved in that, and realizing they just did it in like, you know, a few strokes and that was it. You know? There was no erasing or anything like that. Made me interested in art from other cultures. And then of course, being at TSU and having the chance to go to Africa, that just accelerated my interest in African art. But it's also like I'm African American, so that's, you put all those things together, and it's like, you know, that's where I draw my work from, like ideas, you know. So I'm always looking at stuff, you know, and thinking things are interesting, but it's even more interesting when you start trying to check out the meanings of things.
Yes.
You know, not just visually, but like, what was that intended for? Like the Uffizi figure, what that represents. You know, so.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Leamon, for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you.
And like I said, come and join us. We're open today until 5. We're open, so hope to see you soon. Okay? Bye, everybody.
Bye.